Hi, friends. Welcome to another episode of Inspire Career Spotlight on Careers, the video podcast series where I bring you experts from all over the career management space to keep you up to date and help you manage your careers. And today, I'm very excited to welcome Gina Riley to the podcast. Hi, Gina.
Hello. I am so excited to be here.
Yeah, hey, I'm really excited to share Gina and her story. So let me introduce her, and then we'll get right into the interview. And this is a really great episode with lots of actionable stuff. So if you got a pad of paper, you want to take some notes, this might be a great time to go get that too. So Gina Riley is, in full disclosure, a fellow executive coach who I know very well, which I am so honored to bring to you because, you know, I just love to bring guests that I test drive and I love. So Gina Riley is truly transforming how people approach job search and career transitions. With nearly a decade of experience in corporate HR at Intel and as an executive search consultant for Talents Group, she has led searches for CEOs, COOs, and CFOs across various industries, trained hundreds in talent selection, and gained unique insight into how to stand out in competitive leadership searches. She developed the Career Velocity Framework, an action-oriented system helping executives navigate successful transitions. A two-time Disrupt HR speaker and recognized thought leader, Gina holds a master's degree and is a certified UMAP coach, an expert in behavioral interview skills. Her expertise spans network strategy, leadership development, and executive presence. She's an official member of the Forbes Coaches Council and author of the book, Qualified Isn't Enough. We're going to be talking about that. Develop Your Story, Land Me Interview, Win the Job with Advantage Forbes Books. In it, Gina shares her comprehensive understanding of both sides of executive hiring and how to go from qualified to chosen. And honestly, there has never been a better time to talk about this as we are in the first quarter of 2026. Job search has never been more difficult. Welcome, Gina Riley.
Thank you, Kathy. I'm so excited to have this conversation.
Yeah. So listen, we both coach executives and anybody listening out there, executives, mid-level professionals, whatever, job search. It is not your father's job search anymore. It is grueling. Grueling is the word out there, right? So Gina has a lot of great advice we're going to talk about today that is in her book, Qualified Isn't Enough. And we're going to talk about some really actionable strategies here because things are not done the way that they used to be done. And to be qualified is not enough anymore. You need to understand the game, if you will. You need to understand how to play it. You need to understand the rules. And you need to understand how to truly market yourself better. So that's what Gina's going to talk to us about. But Gina, let's get into it a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about your book and really the title, Qualified Isn't Enough. Gina, tell me, why did you write this book? What were you seeing out there as you're coaching your clients that prompted you to write this? Because this is a tome, girl. I mean, it's fabulous. I've read it. I love it. What prompted you to do this?
Thank you. It's a response to what you and I hear all the time when we're talking to job seekers. I applied to 200 jobs. I didn't get a response back from any of them, and I was qualified for all of them. And my answer is, being qualified isn't enough. That is the qualifications are that minimum barrier to entry. And then after that, it's all the other stuff to win not just win interviews, but win the job and get the job offer. And so that's what people are not understanding, is this mass applying through job boards is not serving most people. It's serving a couple percentages of the people. And so this entire process, it is helping job seekers use frameworks and not tips to create a unique value proposition that then they can market in their resume, in their LinkedIn, through their interview stories, and most importantly, when they have informationals so they can get referrals. That is the purpose of this book.
All right. That's a great place to start. I love it. So tell me this now. Who needs this book? Yes, we're talking about the frustrations people have and the problems they're running into, but who really, really needs this book?
Well,
not everybody.
It is true. I'm going to say this on the front end. This book can scale. it can scale. I have my kids are in their mid-20s and their friends are they're all college graduates. They're using the book, and what I tell them is, hey, you need to dismiss words like executive or what was your budget like, and go for the frameworks. All the frameworks still apply, and it is my dream to convert this into an early professional book for the 22 to 32-year-old, if you will. But I have worked with people in their late 30s all the way to age 69. And so this is for the job seeker, regardless if they're a leader or executive, who has a complicated story to tell. They need to unravel the story, straighten it out, and then absorb and reflect on the key things they're going to tell decision makers as they have those conversations. So you do not have to be an executive title to read this book. I've had mid-career professionals with director level roles, or they sit in the middle of a collaborative ecosystem in global companies, and they're like, I don't know how to talk about myself.
Yeah.
That's who this book is for.
All right. Well, you said a key phrase in here that we're going to start with this. And, perhaps the job seeker has heard this before if you've ever worked with a coach before, or if not, if you just are on LinkedIn, but it's critical. And this is really the centerpiece of what we're talking about here. Unique value proposition, right? And if we want to maybe shorthand differentiator, you could consider, right? But why don't you break this down for folks? What is a unique value proposition? Because really, your book goes into great detail.
Mm-hmm.
And this is fundamental to the whole purpose of why being qualified is enough and what you really need to do to surpass that. So what is it and why do you need one?
So what I would say to the job seeker listening today is the UVP, the unique value proposition, is foundational. A lot of people that Kathy and I talk to, I can probably speak for you, Kathy, let me know, is they'll appear on our doorstep and say, I need some coaching. Can you do my resume? And they start with the resume. But if you start with the resume, you haven't dissected the stories down to the micro. What are you talking about in the first place? So these job seekers are out there toiling away and using AI to sound like everyone else when they need to distinguish themselves with a unique value proposition. Am I right, Kathy? Yes?
Oh, Gina, thank you. Can we just digress quickly? Folks, we know that AI is out there. We know everybody's using ChatGPT. Use it as a thought partner. But my gosh, if I had a dime for every resume I saw that has, results oriented, known for, adept at, and the same qualifiers on it, if everybody's is the same, they don't need you. So please stop doing it for the love of anything that's holy. Stop doing it. And Gina, continue, because this is the problem, right? This is a problem. A problem.
It is.
Go ahead. Keep telling us, because you need to be different. So go ahead.
Absolutely. So before I dissect the UVP, what I will say, I just ran a workshop this past week for the Intel Alumni Network, and I said the surest way to blend in is to use AI, because AI will absolutely help you not stand out. And everyone went,
Can you repeat that? Can you repeat that for the people in the cheap seats back there? Can you repeat that?
The surest way to blend in to all the other job seekers into that homogenized mush that those recruiters are having to sort through is to use AI to align your resume perfectly with a job description. Should you use AI to modify your resume? Absolutely. I use it every single day, but I never cut and paste exactly what AI is giving me. I have to use my intelligence to see how that aligns with my client's actual experience and then make that authentic. So let's go into the UVP. So as a unique value proposition, I have broken down into chapters 1 through 5 of my book. Chapter 1 leverages insights that people get from the UMAP profile. The UMAP profile was created by career coach Kristen Sherry. She won a Career Innovator Award in 2020 for the tool. In that tool, you get 4 assessments in one. Top 5 strengths from StrengthsFinder, your values, your motivated and burnout skills, and your personality. So the skills tell me, how do you do what you do with your natural talents? How do you apply your skills? It's not a personality assessment, and it's unique and authentic. Gallup administers the Clifton StrengthsFinder. More than 33 million people have taken it. That tells me how unique you are. The second, the values tell me why do you do what you do, and it is your North Star in decision-making for your career transition plans. 3, what skills burn you out? Well, don't take a job that you're spending more than 20% of your time on burnout skills, even if you do it well. And then the fourth thing is the personality assessment. It's called the Holland, and it's careers related, and it's especially great for career switchers or early career folks. Chapter 2, what is your leadership approach? It helps you dissect how you navigate relationships with people during times of change. So even the early career professional that doesn't have a manager title still has to influence people, Kathy, still has to collaborate, and still has to navigate changing situations all the time. So what this will do, these 2 chapters help you dissect what is true for you and what you're going to say about yourself. Chapter 3, you unravel your career story. We did this at the National Resume Writers Association, just a little micro piece. Boy, was that hard in 1 hour. But it's helping you figure out what are the themes and patterns of your career so that you are building up to the tell me about yourself narrative, which is in chapter 5. I kind of skipped over 4. Chapter 4 is my frameworks on how you collect and store your career results. And those career results are the things that go on your resume, right? And that you explain in your interview stories. But unless and until you do the uniqueness piece of it, what are your strengths? How do you do what you do? And you infuse it into that, then you're removing the humanity of who you are into your storytelling. So that's kind of that chapter 1 through 5, and it helps you answer, tell me about yourself.
Well, I just wanted to say something here. So before I started, or before I was running Inspire Careers, I worked 20 years in HR. And when I went to read your book, I laughed at the opening line, and I'm going to read it to everybody because I think this is going to ring true to people. And I kind of laughed, but tongue in cheek. But it's important because if you see yourself in this, you'll know what Gina's talking about. This is why I want to say this to you, okay? So this is the first page of the book, folks. First line, okay? Introduction. It's the introduction. It's not even the first chapter. So tell me a little bit about yourself, right? Who hasn't been in that interview, right? That's the first question everybody gets asked. And Gina writes here, I sat across from the CEO candidate, my eyes shifting between his animated face and the ticking clock. I started interviews the same way for each candidate. Given we have a lot to cover in the next hour, please give me your 5-minute career overview. And now 20 minutes had passed and he was still answering the opening question.
I have goose eyes in a bad way.
Yeah, and I saw my HR career flash before my eyes when I read that. And I share that with the audience to say, if you feel like you're that person sitting there and if you're taking 20 minutes to explain that because you're rambling, because you don't know what to say, you're not really clear, you thought you were prepared, because I don't know. We don't think people go in unprepared. Let's assume everybody goes in as prepared as they think they are, but you still don't really have it down. Right? And you get in there and you're nervous and you're fumbling and you're spending 20 minutes and you still don't close it. You have lost your audience. They don't hear anything else you say because now you're Charlie Brown's mother. Right? So when I saw this, I thought if you are struggling with that, I'm telling you, you need to understand that this is why this work is important, right?
It's so important. And that was absolutely a true story. It actually happened. And I have been asked, okay, well, you were the lead recruiter on that. You're the experienced professional. Why didn't you cut him off? I was the one with the relationship with the board of directors. I was managing the whole search. Every candidate was going through multiple interviews through my team before we even started having a conversation about who should they talk to. My reputation was on the line. My job is to figure out if this person had executive presence. Could he read the room? And he did not read the room. He didn't prepare because he didn't have a great team A. Tell me about yourself.
But I bet he thought he prepared. I bet he did, though. He thought he did. That's the problem. People think they're prepared. They're not. That's what I'm saying, Anyway, so keep going. So we're talking about why, we talk about the unique value proposition, why you need one. And it really sets the tone for the rest of anything that you do, doing your resume, doing your LinkedIn, having that interview, right?
Absolutely. It is foundational. Then we move to step 6. Then we start that resume and LinkedIn profile development. And there's plenty of stuff out there for job seekers, good and bad, to go figure out how to write a resume. This is not a resume writing book. This is a storytelling book. And so I leaned into about 15 or 16 of my friends across the branding, marketing, resume writing landscape, LinkedIn. And there's a ton of quotes. And a couple of our friends are in there, actually, Kathy. We've got Brenda Mariah and Marie Zimnoff, who Brenda was the president of the NRWA before you became our trusted leader. And both of them talk about some of the pitfalls, especially with those of us who are over age 40 in the old category, because we're also fighting age bias as well. And so that's a chapter where people can kind of take a less of a deep dive and more of like skim the highlights about what's important with our marketing.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because I was focusing on that chapter too. And that's a conversation that, continues to come up. And I share very openly, I'm 62 years old, and I'm not going to retire tomorrow. And my job seekers are getting older. They continue to get older. And as I continue to work with them over time, they're getting older. Like I may have started with them in their early 50s and now they're in their 60s and they're still working. And I got people coming out of retirement because they're bored or they want money, whatever. And we're working longer. We're just working longer overall. So, please, you have to think about that. And, you really have to think about positioning yourself in the strongest way possible because these biases are real. And this isn't, there's another conversation there for a whole other time, but the truth is they are, and you need to be prepared with your strongest stories to be able to overcome the biases that are going to be awaiting you in those rooms, right? And you can overcome them, right? We're working over those ages, but you just have to be aware of it. So it's a really good chapter in here, and they can talk about that. But let's talk about the interviewing and let's talk a little bit about that and leveraging AI because there's a lot of the AI just impacts every aspect of the interview process now.
It really does. And so what I talk about in the book, so we'll move into chapter 7. I created a framework for interview prep called the Rare Candidate Framework, and that stands for research, align, read the room, and then evaluate. And the research is so important. Now that we do have AI, I've been able to create packets for some of my senior level folks that are bumping up into like 28 pages long, full of research and insights and categories of things that they should be contemplating. And it blows their socks off, Kathy. Like a lot of these folks just haven't thought outside the box. I mean, they can be a CEO or a VP of a whole region somewhere, but they're not using AI in this way. And I'm using it repeatedly. And so, I can get marketed insights. I can pull in competitor information. And then it's their job to validate it. I don't go I create the packets. I'm not doing all the research for them because they're the professional. They're the ones that have to interview. So first of all, creating these really hefty research packets. And if you're at the very senior levels, you need to plan for 40 hours worth of prep. If you're early career, 5, if you're a college grad, 5 hours or something. Mid-career, 10 to 20. If you're an executive going for a global role and you want to win the offer, you're not just competing, you're competing to win 40 hours. And so that's what this packet development and the research that it takes to understand that job better than anyone else, including the people sitting in that room. But then aligning your stories. If you haven't aligned your stories, what are you going to talk about? Everything? No. You're going to try to then read the room and figure out what do each of these decision makers want to hear and need to hear from me. If you're talking to a peer, it's going to be different than if you're talking to the boss or even potentially subordinates, people reporting into you. They care about something else. So read the room, figure out who you're talking to, find out what their pain points are. And are you going to alleviate their pain points or are you going to be a disruptor because they don't want to make a hiring mistake? It is so expensive to hire the wrong person. So you need to be able to figure out if you're, how you're going to help them see that you're the right fit. And then evaluating the offer is it a good fit for you? So my frameworks are in this book for interview prep and all the categories of the things up until that point that I knew before I publish to research.
Excellent. Let's talk a little bit about before they even get to the interview stage, right? And they're searching. And we know that, it's easier to take the approach of press and apply, right? And listen, you're going to do some of that. We know this. It's okay. It's okay. Because I got people get jobs off LinkedIn. I'm sure you do too, right? It happens. It happens, but it happens a very small amount of people. So can we talk a little bit about overall job search strategies? Things that people aren't even thinking about. And as you're job searching, you are researching these companies. So as you're talking about these chapters too, I want people to know that Gina's laid this out very systemically for everyone, and it's very easy to follow. But when you're really doing it, there's a lot of crossing streams. Like these things are fluid as you're actually doing them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as you're job searching and you're researching companies, because it's such a better way to find a job than chasing job titles, let's talk a little bit about this, Gina, and your recommendations for maybe some ways people haven't thought about job search and ways that they can do it a little bit better to get in that interview room.
Well, that's fun to talk about ways that people haven't thought of because, there's a lot of ways that people think of networking as I just need to start doing cold outreach.
Yeah, right.
And that is not necessarily the case. So in the book, I make mention of a book called, and you don't need to, well, I don't want to say don't buy the book. Buy the book if you're interested. Dr. David Burkus wrote Friend of a Friend. And right to the point of what I love about this book is he talks about the social science of rekindling loose or dormant ties. The science says when we go back and we start up conversations with people all the way back to maybe college, clubs we were in, early career jobs, the tennis club we were a part of, church, whatever, you name it, and you haven't talked to them for 10 years, maybe more, but you go back and say, hey, it's been forever, it's been a minute, let's catch up. And in the process of catching up, you're not like, hey, do you have a job for me? That's not what we're doing. We're catching up with someone who is gonna what? Take our call. People who know, like, and trust us are taking the call. Cold outreach is tough. It's tough on the soul. It's hard to get the yes in people's time, and you're starting from ground zero. Dormant ties, you're not starting from ground zero. So you rekindle those connections. And what has been happening in the decade or two since you talked to that person? They have been expanding their life and their social circle and their professional circle beyond you. So now you have reach. And you start talking about what you're doing with your life and what you're targeting. And hey, do you know anyone at these companies? Or do you have any ideas or thoughts for me? Wake up your dormant ties. That's one really great tip.
Excellent. And I'm going to share a tip, if I may.
Yeah.
One thing I tell my folks to do at the end of all these conversations is to always end the conversation with, and what can I do for you? Because folks, if you're calling everybody, trying to rekindle, and you're not necessarily asking for a job right out the gate, but that's what you're trying to get those conversations going and get information. Always want to reciprocate because you never know either. That person might be looking too. They might they might be looking for that conversation and you're the first one to pick up the phone. So you're really helping them in many ways. And if not, at the very least, you are showing your gratitude. And that goes a heck of a long way because who's got time to just be, hopping on conversations all day long? They're going to do it for the people that show gratitude for their time,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Absolutely. So the other thing, though, I'd like your opinion on is, so, we're talking about the job search strategy and we're talking about interviewing and getting your value proposition up. But what place does LinkedIn, right? What place does LinkedIn really have on this? And I mean beyond like trying to attract recruiter attention, put your hand up for recruiters, your profile, but I mean more like content strategy, presence on LinkedIn, right? And how you present yourself in terms of whether you're a subject matter expert or a thought leader. Can you talk about those differences and really what the purpose of all that is? How that
Yes. So I would start with this. LinkedIn is a platform that's constantly evolving. Just like any company, they're always, we get our iPhone updates and we're like, oh, what's going on here? LinkedIn is constantly moving and refreshing, et cetera. So what we talk about today may be slightly different tomorrow or next year, et cetera. So I'm going to throw that out there. Today, what we know is even going on and making thoughtful comments on other people's posts is king or queen. People, many of the comments that I make, especially if it's like a juicy one, and especially if it's early on another thought leader's post and I'm getting my comment in there before other people, those are getting more views than some of my posts that I'll spend an hour on, Kathy. So part of connecting on LinkedIn is spending a certain portion of your time and block out, 3 slots a week for an hour and go in and read posts that are relevant to your industry and your field, and then make comments on those people's posts because you want to be seen in those circles. Don't comment on things that are, let's say, political. If that, don't use the platform more socially, if you will. Try to put yourself in the ecosystem where other people are talking about what you care about professionally so you can get seen and heard. So comments are huge. The second thing is, I think people are just scared to post things on LinkedIn. And until they get the ball rolling, it can be really hard to get over yourself. I talk about one of my clients, I call him Chris. He's a real person who went through my whole program and landed a bigger global job than he had previously come from. He had 87 connections when I first started working with him. And he's same age as me, mid-50s. And so I'm like, and he's an introvert. I was like, you have to let your bright light shine. You got to get on LinkedIn and you got to showcase what you know about leadership, leading teams, process improvement. He's a sales leader, but with a Lean Six Sigma, black belt. And then also personal things, because he actually was a lively person, like in his personal life. So he starts posting content, really juicy stuff, thoughtful. And then he started building a following. And I just looked the other day, he's got more than 3,000 people following him. And here's what happened, Kathy. He goes to start that new global role. And we talked and he said, yeah, I am using my UVP all the time. I'm telling people my unique value proposition because they want to hear my story. And I know how to say that in less than 5 minutes. And every room I walk in, they're like, we feel like we already know you. We've been following you on LinkedIn. This is a way to get to know. We all get to know people through these social channels, not just LinkedIn, YouTube, wherever, Instagram, wherever you hang out. But I have gotten to know so many people on LinkedIn just from following them and then befriending them. It's incredible.
It really is. And listen, you don't have to become everybody's best friend, but I will tell you, and shout out to Jada out there, my friend Jada, that I met through here. I've met a lot of wonderful people, but Jada Willis, I got on a plane to go to South Carolina to meet her. We developed a relationship on here. She's an executive CEO coach, and I got on a plane to go meet her and coach with her for a couple of days. You can really develop incredible relationships with people. But it's not, that doesn't mean everybody, and it doesn't mean you're reckless either. But, concerning. But the point is, you got to put yourself out there a bit. Gina, what's your response to people who don't like social media? I don't like social media.
So truth be told, I'm really not on social media. I have a Facebook landing page. I don't even know how to use Facebook. I never got on it. Instagram, none of it, right? I have a Blue Sky account. I have an X account.
I don't even know what Blue Sky is, so maybe I'm not nearly as
Twitter. I don't even know. And
I know what it is. Okay.
Too. So I'm mostly on LinkedIn, and I would put it in a bucket of a social media. I mean, I'm not naive. However, it's where professionals hang out, right? And so you need to be there so you can kind of keep your pulse on what's going on professionally. That said, there's other ways to build your ecosystem, which ties back to your line of questioning, Kathy, for this segment, which is what are the outside of the box ways to be networking and relationship build? Conferences. We're not in a pandemic anymore, people.
My favorite.
Go to flipping conferences. So you go to a conference, but before you go, you research all the speakers. And the ones that are most interesting, reach out with a personalized connection request and say, hey, Kathy, I noticed that you're speaking on the topic of XYZ at the next conference. I'm so looking forward to your session and can't wait to meet you. That is it. You only get a couple hundred.
And they love it.
That's it.
They love it because they're putting their time and energy into this. And they love
Free a lot of times.
Yeah. Yeah, they love it. Yeah, paid free, whatever. They love it. So, no, you're not going to be bothering them. And even if they are a big name, whatever, still make the connection. Anything else? What else can you tell us? What other good ideas?
Yes. So the other thing is joining professional groups. So, for example, one of my clients who is making a challenging career transition, he's like a CFO, financial leader, but an operations leader hybrid. And he just told me this week, he said, hey, I just got asked to be on the FEI board of directors for our local chapter. So the finance, leaders for our area. Well, Portland, Oregon isn't a very big city when you start joining a circle like that because all the finance leaders are in that group. So how to keep the best pulse on what's going on? Taking on one of those roles that puts you in the ecosystem of conversations and also trying to help retain the members who may not have time for it. Because those are the busy people in a job that may have a job for you in the future. So that's actually a really good one.
The commonality, though, I'm hearing, the commonality between all these is that personal connection. Again, it's getting out from behind the computer, talking to people, going to conferences, going to meetings, right? Picking up the phone, talking to people. It is not the pandemic, but I think it's a good general statement that we've gotten very used to those behaviors, those pandemic-related behaviors. We're all guilty of it, right? But there's a huge difference in going to go to a meeting where you have to practice your unique value propositions and, where you're meeting people in public again. Here we have the Chamber of Commerce I belong to. They have what they call lunch mobs, where just business owners can go meet for lunch at these different restaurants. Even something like that that's informal that you don't even know. You're like, well, nobody there's going to have a job for me. You never know. And you can practice your relationship building skills. And sometimes it's just good to get out of the house or, talk to different people. You just never know who's going to have a job either. So let me always say that.
Well, people hire people. People hire people. Yes, there's automated hiring and whatever. But we're talking about, if mostly senior leaders are listening in, come on. People hire people. A robot's not hiring you to be a director or a VP of something because they're not going to take that risk. But what you're saying is so true, and it goes back to the awakening dormant ties. I just called a cousin of mine who I've probably only seen not even 10 times in my whole life. I call him up and I say, hey, my parents are going to come to your kid's wedding. I'd love to join in with them and shepherd them around because they're getting older. And we got to talking about our kids and our lives. We have college graduates, all mechanical engineering students. So he's got twins and I've got the one. And I said, yeah, my kid is living in Montreal for the next year and a half with his girlfriend who's getting her master's degree. And it's going to be really hard for him to get a job up there because the Canadians don't want to hire American, college grads. And he said, you know what? In my line of work, I have a lot of connections in Montreal. Let me think about it. Maybe I would have an introduction for you. Are you kidding me? This is a family member, first degree cousin, who I barely talked to my whole life, who's possibly got something to offer my kid, an introduction in a place where he cannot get a job.
But you don't have that opportunity if you don't talk to people. And folks, when you're watching this, I'm looking at the book. I got my little blue stickers here for stuff, and I'm pointing out here, page 152, the ABCs of job search, always be connecting. So that's what we're kind of talking about. And it's about digging your well before you're thirsty, right? All these things before you need it. So before you get into that spot of transition, thinking about it, joining those groups ahead of time. And if you know that you've got a runway, if you know you're going to lose your job, or you say, look, at 2026, the year I'm going to take care of myself, I'm going to get that job I deserve, Now you've got that runway, you've got that time. Think about those organizations so that you can be thoughtful about it, so that you're not doing it at the last minute. Conferences, you generally got to register several months in advance to get the early birds or whatever it is that you got to do, right? Make your flight arrangements. And you want to be selective about the ones you do, which ones make sense for you, right? And you've got a budget, you got all kinds of things you got to think about. So you've got to plan this kind of stuff, but sometimes you don't have a chance to plan. Hello, it's Friday afternoon. Come in my office, right? Some of us have been there, right? Right? How many people have just like we're laying off and you just recycle. So it's one of those things that you may not have, but if you've already kind of set up your life where you've kind of got these things in order, then it's not that panic mode. And you go into that in here too. That's the always be connecting piece where you've always got that safety net in there, right, Gina?
You need to make connecting a habit. Full stop. And so when I really started getting traction on LinkedIn or really understood the ecosystem, I don't know about you, Kathy, because I'm a late comer. I took 15 years off and raised my 2 sons. So when I kind of entered the ecosystem, I had a very anemic set of connections. And at first I was kind of nervous and scared to connect with other people that were doing similar things to me, someone like you, and the friends that we all have, because I thought, oh, they're competitors. And what I learned over time is I'm stronger and better because I know you, Kathy, and because I know the people that we know through NRWA and the career thought leaders, et cetera. I'm better because of it, because I'm constantly being informed by your experiences, et cetera. So don't be scared. What I'm saying is don't be scared to connect with people that you think are out of your reach. I mean, I don't go and connect with like Brene Brown or Gary Vaynerchuk, but I do connect with authors, people who've written books, et cetera. And it has led to amazing, amazing collaborations.
Yeah, you never know. And just remember, people are people too, and everybody's got their own, insecurities and they got their own stuff. But the word there, the thought that I always live by, I don't know where I heard this years ago, but it's if I got a tattoo on my forehead, it would be there to say there is enough business for everybody, folks. And you don't have to be afraid of each other. And, which is why I'm here promoting Gina's book. Because not afraid of it, right? So you like Gina? I'll work with Gina.
I'm hoping it'll help also even career coaches, because like even when I've talked to other resume writers and coaches, the framework of building the UVP, we all know we need storytelling, but I've laid it out in a way that's really palatable. You can follow the instructions to the micro. And, I buy the 2-hour job search. See, mine's dog-eared from Steve Dalton. I buy a copy and mail it myself to all of my clients, along now with my book and a journal. And then Kate Dixon's Pay Up book on salary negotiation.
Oh, I like that one. Yeah.
Right? And so here's the thing. We don't have to.
Let's put in a little plug for Kate Dixon here, shall we?
Dixon, my good friend. I worked with her.
Oh my God, look at all my dog ears here too.
So much, right?
And Kate did not pay us for this. We're just sharing. Okay, here we go.
No, and if I could have $1 or nickel for every book I have sold of Steve Dawson's,
but it comes back around.
It does. And Steve has been so gracious. Like, for example, I did an interview with him. So I have an article I can share with people who are listening. If you send me a personal connection request, I can point you to that article. It's actually on my website. And then also he did a session in front of the Intel Alumni Network. I've been doing 14 months of monthly programming, and he came on and we had a discussion about career transitions and how to use the 2-hour job search. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. And what we're saying to you out there listening to this podcast is you don't either. Come forth with your thought leadership, your spin, your special story, and then be a part of the conversation. Because if you're not, nobody's coming for you. No one's going to pluck you out of obscurity. Don't sit back and wait. You need to jump into the cold, deep end of the pool and go for it.
And there is enough space for everybody, folks. Don't let the billion members out here scare you, because there is enough. We all have a unique voice and there's enough. The last thing I want to say, because we do got to kind of tie this up here and I want to get a final word on something, but one thing I want to say about the book is very struck myself as I read it about the system, really so easy to follow and one piece feeds into another. But Gina, what I found, and then I saw it in the reviews, because I read the reviews on the book too. And the reviews in particular really talk about how this book, and it struck me, written with empathy and compassion were the words that kept coming up with on your reviews. I don't mean to embarrass you, but
No, I'm just so delighted. I mean, this is a human moment, really. I don't necessarily think of myself in that way. I guess I am compassionate and I know I am, but but that's not what I lead with.
no, but the point I'm making is that you've got this fabulous system, but it's delivered in a way that you see who these people are, right? You see beyond the system. So we are people, human beings. And yes, there's a system to follow, but it's not as if Gina doesn't see who you are and understand. Well, sure, it's easy for you to say, Gina. No, that's not what this is about. She gets it. That's what people are reacting to when they say that. So I just share that to say that's the beauty of this, is that it's not, I mean, it's really formulated with that, yes, if you do these things, this will get you the result. But there's this human element, and I see you, I feel you, I know what you're going through. And it comes out in the book, in the writing.
Thank you so much. And I'll just make a note again back to StrengthsFinder. I'll tell you why I'm able to do this. Like what's the superpower powering that? Individualization. It's my number 3 strength out of my top 5. And it's because I do see people as individuals, and everyone brings something to the party. And so that's what I'm trying to draw out with the UVP.
Love it. Love it. So let me ask you this now, because we're tying up here, Gina, and I think you just a great conversation. But let's end up here and give me a final piece of advice here. So anybody listening, navigating career transition, what's your final word of advice that you'd like to share with folks today? The final word you'd like to leave with them before they go take a look at this book?
I have 2 words: context and relevancy. You need to contextualize your stories and make them relevant to whomever you're speaking to. So you need to read the room so you understand what will be relevant. Do your research. But unless and until you bring context and relevancy into your candidacy, you may have missteps. So that's my final word.
All right. Love it. Good ending. All right. Well, thank you, Gina Riley of Gina Riley Consulting and author of Qualified Isn't Enough. So thank you for sharing that with us today. I appreciate it. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Oh, I appreciate you having me on. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it was a good time. So listen, folks, if you're out there, you don't have to navigate any of this alone. There are resources for you. As Gina said, you do not have to reinvent the wheel. But it is a tough road. It is not your father's job search anymore. So please, if you're looking for a great resource, Qualified Isn't Enough is a great resource to help you. And Gina's we'll be dropping here. You can see underneath there, we've got the transcript, and we've got links to Gina's socials, Gina's website as well. Take a look at the resources and reach out to her with any questions that you may have. So we're going to tie up here. But listen, before we do, please remember to subscribe to our channel. And we have some other great guests scheduled for the remainder of this spring. So I really want you to check those out. Thank you so much. And Gina Riley, thank you again for being here. It's so glad to see you here. So thank you so much for sharing your expertise. And folks, until we meet again, live inspired.